Hello and welcome to Monday's science lesson. Okay, so today you're going to need an ice cube. Okay, do you remember last week Miss Gardner asked you to get an ice cube ready? Okay, so this is the lesson you need it for. We're going to do a little experiment with the ice cube in a minute. Okay, but before we do that, this is actually our last lesson on the topic of winter. Okay, because tomorrow we're going to move on to something else. Okay, so we thought we'd make this a fun one. Okay, so we are going to have a go at doing an experiment, okay? But before we do that, we're going to do a little bit of history, okay? So remember, history is learning about events and people that have happened in the past, okay? So we're going to learn a little bit about a large ship today. You're probably thinking, what on earth has a ship and an ice cube got to do with each other? Well, it will all make sense shortly. So this ship we're going to start with, it's a very famous ship. Okay, and it's called the Titanic. Okay, have you heard of the Titanic? Okay, if not, we're just about to learn about it, so don't worry. Okay, so here we go. So today, if we want to travel from the United Kingdom, where we live, to America, the easiest way to do it is by aeroplane. Okay, and it takes around 8 hours, not too long. Okay, but in the past, okay, you would have had to have got there by ship. Okay, and it would have taken up to a week to sail there. Okay, and because it took a week to sail there were all sorts of things aboard these ships. There was a restaurant, there was a hairdresser's, there was a library, and sometimes even a swimming pool. Okay, imagine that aboard a ship. Okay, now the Titanic was the largest ship ever to be built, and it took them 3 years to make. Okay, and it was made in Ireland. Okay, and the Titanic was as long as 3 football pitches, and it was as high as a building with 17 stories, 17 floors on it. It was massive, absolutely massive. Okay, and to build this ship, it cost hundreds of millions of pounds, which is a lot of money. Okay, now this ship was supposed to be an amazing ship, and people said it would never ever sink. Okay, that's what they thought would happen. Okay, so now here's where your little ice cube comes in. Okay, so an iceberg is a really big piece of ice that's floating in the sea. Okay, icebergs can be bigger than houses. Okay, a little bit bigger than your ice cube. Okay, but the trouble is with ice cubes, most of the ice cube can't be seen because it's hiding underwater. Okay, and this is where the problem began. Okay, on the Titanic's first ever journey, okay, to get from England over to America, the weather was really, really cold, and there were lots of icebergs in the sea. Okay, can you guess what's going to happen? Okay, so one night, this ship, the Titanic, hit an iceberg, and this iceberg made a very, very large hole in the bottom of the ship and began to fill up with water. Okay, now remember, this ship, they said, would never ever sink. Okay, but after a few hours after hitting the iceberg, the Titanic sank to the bottom of the sea, which is where it still is. Okay, so that's a little bit of history on the Titanic. So like I say, you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, what's that got to do with my ice cube? Well, we thought we'd do a little experiment. Okay, so let's get my notes. There we go. So we're going to be little scientists today and have an ice investigation. Right, so today we are learning to solve a science problem. Okay, and we're going to carry out an investigation. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of finding out. Okay, so to do this, we're going to be scientists. Okay, how amazing is that? Because we're going to ask questions. That's what scientists are doing all the time. They're asking questions and trying to find the answers out. We're going to make a prediction, and a prediction is what we think is going to happen. Okay, and this is based on what we already know. Okay, we're going to carry out some simple tests. Okay, we're going to observe closely, and we're going to watch closely, see what happens, and then we're going to collect all that information up to try and answer the question we've come up with. So we're going to be investigating your little ice cube today. Okay, so we're going to be asking questions. We're going to try and find out the answer by testing and observing the ice. Okay, so it's up to you what test you are going to do on your ice cube. Okay, but you've got to make sure you're observing it so you can answer your question. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, can you think of different questions you would ask to find out about the properties of your ice? So what your ice is made up of and it's capable of. Okay, and then we're going to find out the answers. And what tests can you do on your ice cube to find your answer out? Okay, so can you see we've got our thinking caps on in this picture, and that's what you're going to do. What would you like to find out about your ice cube? And how can you go about finding it out? Okay, so something as simple as, what happens when you hold the ice in your hands? Do you know what will happen? That's right, it will melt. But why does it melt? That's right, because ice is made up of frozen water. And when that frozen water warms up, it starts to melt, it starts to drip and melt. Okay, now maybe your question is, how long does it take an ice cube to melt? So that could be your question, okay? And then you've got to work out how you're going to find that out. Okay, what else might you ask? You might want to know, will my ice cube melt quicker if I hold it in my hand? Okay, so for this, you could either put your ice cube on the work surface and leave it alone. Okay, you might want to hold it in your hand, see if that makes it melt quicker. Okay, you might want to put it near to a radiator and see if that makes it melt quicker. Okay, which is what the next one is how long will it take to melt by the radiator? Okay, you might want to know, how much smaller will it be after 5 minutes? Okay, so how are you going to work that out? What are you going to have to do to your ice cube first of all? Are you going to weigh it to see how much it weighs before 5 minutes? And then you could maybe weigh it again after 5 minutes, or you could measure it with a ruler, it's up to you. You could also ask, will it smash if I hold it from? And then you could decide how high. Maybe you could start off with a very small distance. Okay, so measure how tall that is. Will it smash from that? Okay, find out the answer. Okay, if it didn't, what happens if I do it from a little bit higher? Will it smash? Okay, so all these questions are ideas that you could use to find them out. Okay, other things you might want to find out about is, can I cut my ice cube with scissors? Okay, now this one is definitely going to need a grown-up to make sure you don't hurt yourselves, okay, or damage anything, okay? You might want to find out how cold it is. How cold is your ice cube? So what would you need to find out how cold your ice cube is? Oh, another question we've got here is, what colour is it as it melts? Okay, has it got a colour? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, and does it stay the same shape? So as it melts, does it stay an ice cube shape? Goodness me, that's a lot of questions there that you could find out about your ice cube. Okay, so today's activity in science is decide on a question you would like to find out the answer to. Okay, so we've given you lots and lots of ideas in there, but you might have an idea of your own. Okay, you might have a different question to maybe one of your friends in class. Okay, so don't worry about that, it's all exciting. Okay, so what we would like you to do is come up with a question, okay, and then work out how you can find out the answer. Okay, remember, this is what scientists are doing all the time in their jobs. They're coming up with questions, okay, and then working out how they can find out the answer. Okay, so you might want to use the worksheet on the website. You don't have to, you literally just need a piece of paper. But this is how I've shown you how you might want to do it. So there it is. So there's the learning objective. I forgot to share that with you. And that is, I can ask a question to investigate. Okay, so in here is your question. So that might be, how quickly does the ice cube melt by a radiator? Or how high do I have to put my ice cube before it drops? Okay, so that's where your question goes. Okay, and then the fun part, you're going to go off and test it, okay, just like a proper scientist. And here at the bottom is your answer, okay? That's what you found out, okay? So have fun, okay? Investigate what you can do with your ice cube and find out the answers, okay? Have fun, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.